Two parts. Jack Spade back here with you, High Noon Leatherworks, for another leather adventure. And today we're going to do a project on the upcycle. And what I mean by that is I've got some pigskin leather material here, brown. I have a small piece of pre-dyed leather. I've got an old cloth belt, and then I've got some canvas material here that I bought at a yard sale. So we are going to make a project with all that stuff and come up with something useful, and it's going to be a surprise for my wife. So she's been talking about, she's got this bag that she carries all the time, and she's had it for a long time. It's getting wore out. She puts her purse and everything inside of it, and so she keeps looking and looking and looking, and she can't find another one like that she likes. So what I did was I snuck around and I measured that bag, and I'm going to take these upcycled materials and I'm going to create her a bag. So come on in and let's get started. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is all these pieces are going to have hems and seams, and so I kind of want her finished size, her bag finished size, to be right at 16 inches by 16 inches. So I'm going to allow for some extra material when I cut these pieces out because of the hems and so on. So I'm going to lay this out, and I'm going to cut two pieces. I'm going to go ahead and do 17 by 17 instead of 16 by 16. And this, I'm going to use this square, and I'm going to use a pencil very lightly on that material, and it doesn't really show up, so I'm going to have to change my strategy on that. And let's try this ballpoint ink pen here. Let's see what that does for us. I don't need a super dark line, I just need a line to make sure I see where I'm cutting. That looks much better. And that, the other side's only 15, 16 inches, so let's flip this over and put that square on that line, and then I'll come down this other side 17 inches. And then I'll do the same thing over here. Come down 17 inches after I get that squared up. This line, and then do the same thing here, and then that should give me a 17 by 17 square. And I do need 2 of those, so I could cut that out and then try to mimic that, but I think it'd be so much easier to go ahead and just continue on with my square, since I already know this one I've got nice and square. I could check that by going corner to corner, and that's 24 inches by 24 inches, so I'm good and square, and I can come across. Let's see, let's do it this way, just like we did the other side. I'm just trying to smooth that top out there, get that flattened out, nice and flat. And I'll square that up with this piece. And then do the same thing. I'll go 17 inches. I've already got this straight. So come down, flip it over. Do the same thing down here. Go 17. Square up the last side over here at 17. So I can see my lines where I'm going to cut. I could use scissors. Let me see if my heavy duty shears will cut this. And I'll try a little corner here and see how it does. It does pretty good. So I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and cut this out with some shears. So I'm going to bring you back up to the workbench, and we'll go ahead and get that cut out. Alright, so I just wholesale cut that with a knife to get that piece out of that huge piece that I cut it out of, and then I can trim it down better with my shears. So I'm gonna get that on a nice flat surface and follow that square straight line the best I can here. Whether I leave the line on there or I don't, or cut right on it, it doesn't really matter that much, because it's going to get folded over. You're not going to see it. So there's my first scrap piece. I can turn it. Just want to make sure it's nice and flat as possible. I don't want to have another piece folded under here and ruin it by accidentally cutting into that. And why do I say that? because I've accidentally done that before. Getting too big of a hurry, next thing you know, I'm cutting through a piece of material that I shouldn't be. It seems like on this material, the flatter I can keep it, and keep my scissors, the better it cuts. And I want to, I've got a little bit of plus or minus on this when I'm cutting it. A little tolerance. I mean, we're not working with machine parts here or anything, but I want to get as close as I possibly can. So I'll take my time. Get a nice straight cut. And just keep working my way down this piece of material. Now, I'll probably cut my pig skin the same way, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that here in a minute. Because it's not super thick. Trim off any loose ends I've got. Now I can rotate that and do the next short edge. Let me get this cut out, and then I'll be right back. Alright, so I've got this canvas part trimmed out, and as I was trimming it, had the epiphany, I was going to stitch all this together anyway, make it so much stronger if the bottom wasn't stitched and I just folded it over. So it's like, duh. So I'll actually have an opening at the top and then just 2 stitches down the sides, and that's going to make this a lot stronger. So my thought process to this whole layout and upcycling this material was that on this pigskin, this brown pigskin that I have, I want to do at the top about 3 inches. So I need to leave a little bit for a hem because I don't want it to be rough cut down here at the bottom. And then I'll fold it over at the top and hem it with the actual canvas. So I'm going to need about a 1/2 inch at the top and a 1/2 inch at the bottom. So that's going to be 4 inches total. So 3 inches for my width, and then a 1/2 inch on each side for my hems. Now, I know this is 17 inches long, so I'm going to need 2 pieces, 4 by 17. This cutting mat is 18 inches long. So I should be able to use my straight edge and this cutting mat and get me a couple of pieces out of that. Now, I'm going to do the same thing I did on my canvas, except I'm not going to be using a square. I'm just going to use a straight edge. I'm going to bring this all the way down where I know I have at least 17 or more inches here. And then all I'm going to do is straighten up this one edge. And I can do that just by using my straight edge. I don't have to use my grid or anything yet. So from one end of my cutting mat to the other, I know is 18 inches. And I'll just trim that off so that becomes scrap. So I know now that I have at least 18 inches. I need 17. So let's go ahead and I'm going to cut this straight off, get rid of the excess. So I don't have to fight with this piece here. So I'll set it aside. I've got my straight edge here. So let's go ahead and I'll use my grid because I know it's straight on here. And let's go ahead and cut that little ear off so I can see my grid. And then all I need to do is take a straight edge, make sure my straight line I just cut is on my line at the top of my grid, and I'll come over to my 1 inch mark on my grid, and square that up. So now I know the top and my right hand side square. I'll come over and I'm going to do the same thing to this side. So let me trim off the excess so I can get all that out of my way. And I know the top is square. So I'll square the top up just like I did on this side. Come down to the 1 inch mark on this end. And cut that straight. Now, I know I'm square from the top and down both sides. Now all I need to do is take my 4 inches out here and here. And I could do that again by using, I could just measure it or I can use my grid. So I'll come down .4 inches on both sides. And I'll just use my long straight edge. line is hard to see on that dark brown. So what I'll do is I'll lay my straight edge on the marks and I'll come back and double check everything. So it's 4 inches, 4 inches. So I know I'm on the mark. And I just move my hand down as I make my cut. That way I'm keeping my material good and stable. It's not slipping or sliding as I make my cut. So there's my first 4-inch strip, and it is 4 inches right now by 18 1/4. So we can trim that down as soon as we get our other strip here. So let's go ahead and mark it. Four inches. 4 inches. And again, you could do the same thing. You could double check your measurements before you make your cut. That's 4, and that's 4. So there's my 2 4-inch by 18 plus pieces. Then what I need to do is just cut them off at 17 inches. Because our material, if you recall, I cut my canvas at 17 inches. So I can lay my material along my grid at the top, make it nice and straight, come down $17. So I can make sure I cut exactly what I need to off of my straight edge off of the grid. And that's what I ended up with, because it was 18 1/4, so 1 inch and 1/4. And then I end up with a 4 by 17 inch piece. So that's one side. Let's go ahead and do the other side the same way. And there's 17. Line up the top. Move that over. Put the straight edge on my vertical grid line. Cut my 1 1/4 off. So there's my 2 pieces of brown pigskin. Now, what I'm going to do with that is I am going to lay this out and I'll show you. Here's the top right here. This is the top. Then this will go on each side over that at the top, like so. So it'll be a nice trim piece at the top with that brown. Then I'm going to come in with this upcycled cloth belt, and I'm going to fold it over and stitch it and make it a real nice heavy duty handle, and that handle will go on each end with an overlay of this lighter colored leather. So it should look really nice. Should be pretty strong. We'll see how that works out. But the first thing I need to do on this is get an idea of where I need to place my glue, because I am going to glue this. Remember, I wanted it to be 3 inches from the top, but I need to hem this first before I glue that on there. So I'm going to go ahead and get my machine out, get it set up, and get ready to hem my first sides on this pigskin leather. I'll be right back. Alright, so I've got my machine set up. I'm going to do right at a 1/2 inch hem here. I am not going to put anything on it as far as tape or glue or anything. I'm just going to eyeball it down through here. And no, it's not because I'm that great of a seamstress. I can get it close enough for what I need instead of going through all those extra steps. So let's go ahead and I'll do 5 or 6 stitches. I'll back stitch it and then go ahead and what I'm doing is I'm using my foot as a guide here. And I have to go all the way down the whole entire 17 inches. And that sews really easy, real nice. No problem. And I need to make sure I keep my 1/2 inch hem pretty consistent there, at least as consistent as I can by eye. Then get down here to the end and I'll do the same thing. I'll back it up and then go forward and lock that in. If you do any sewing, these little clip-off scissors for threads is wonderful. Alright, I've got a nice straight stitch here. I'm going to pull all my thread out so I can trim it off. And then, especially when I sew lightweight leather, pigskin, or anything like that, what I like to do is when I trim that off, I like to leave about a 1/16 of an inch and then I like to burn it. Just a personal preference that I like to do. It like seals, and you can, if you look at it real close under a magnifying glass, or it kind of seals that. And when you do that, when it's on, there it is, when you put that flame out, it kind of flattens the ends of that thread and makes it real nice, and it won't want to pull out. Of course, I backstitched it anyway, but just another little thing that I could do to help prevent that stitch from coming out. So let's go ahead and double check our width here. It's supposed to be 3 inches, so we've still got a good 3/8 of an inch that we can fold over on this side onto our top when we stitch it. So all we need to do is take the second piece, do the same thing, and then we'll be ready to move on to the next step. So I'll go ahead and do that and then bring it back. So I've got both these pieces stitched with a hem in them. That turned out good. So now that will become the bottom. Now I need to make sure, since this is going to be on the outside, I need to make sure that my canvas is orientated right. Remember, I had a mark, a pin mark, where it folds up and the bottom is. So I need to make sure that I'm on the outside before I start marking this and putting glue on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and double check all my measurements from the top 3 inches okay, so I'm going to come down about 2 7/8 of an inch from the top. So I'm going to give myself just a little bit of buffer area there. Before I put my mark on there. Now, sorry if I keep sticking my arm in front of you. I'm trying to grab some tools here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put just a light marking, which will be covered up. I always double check that before I put any marks on anything. Is it going to be covered up or is it going to be hidden? Don't want any marks showing anywhere. Now that's going to give me an idea where I need to place my glue. So, because I do want this glued on there, and then it'll be stitched. It'll be stitched down here again. It'll be stitched in the seams on the sides, and then it'll be folded over onto the canvas and stitched at the top. So it's going to be stitched on there fine, but I want it nice and flat and adhere to that before I do any of my stitching. So I'm going to put a super, super light coat, just enough to hold this thing flat, of contact cement. Let me grab a throwaway brush here. And I've got another pack of these up here on the tool wall. This is the last one in that pack. And then what I'll do is just take a little bit of that, and I don't want to soak it. I just want to put a light coating on there. And I've got a fan on, so it's going to dry pretty quickly, which is really to my advantage because you want this stuff to get dry and tacky before you put it on. So I'll do both ends here, and I'm going all the way out to the edge. So that I get good adhesion out there. And then same way with the top. I want to make sure I get good adhesion at the top where I'm going to fold that over so it doesn't move on me. Same way down here. I want good adhesion down here by this line that I drew. But I want to be careful not to cross that line. But I'm going to make sure I go all the way to that line. Because if you remember, in case I did make a little mistake like right here, I gave myself an 1/8 of an inch buffer in case I made a little mistake. So I'm working my way down, trying to stay right on that line. Then up here in this wholesale area, it's not near as critical. I just want to get some of that contact cement over that whole area. And you can see how it's really lightening up as it dries. And this is the worst brush I've had out of this whole packet. The bristles are wanting to come out of it. I haven't had any of that trouble with them. So that's done. Now I can kind of set that aside. And then I can bring in my pigskin. I'm going to do the same thing. It's not as critical because I know the size on this, right? And I can do the ends. Top. And that's why I put a piece of cardboard down there so I can go off of the edge like that and not have to worry about it. And that way I know I'm getting it completely covered. So I'll just work my way across now the bottom since I already did the top part. Then I can go ahead and do my wholesale in the center like I did on the canvas, just to get it good and covered. Doesn't have to be thick at all. And then I'll let that sit also and tack up. I've got to do the other side, but I'm going to put this side on first. So I'm going to set this aside and let it tack up. And then I'm going to grab underneath you here, and hopefully I don't knock you over or bump into you, and grab another piece of cardboard because I want a nice clean piece to lay my canvas on. I don't want to lay it on the piece I just smeared cement all over. So let's bring our canvas back over. As you can see, it's lightened up. I can actually go in and take these little bristles off of the nylon. It's not going to hurt anything if they're on there, but I can just pop them right off. They might, I guess I could show up a line depending on how thin the pig skin is, but we'll just pop them off. I've never had one do that bad. Must not be very good. Somebody must not have sealed those in there very good. Alright, so that's all that off of there. Let's go ahead and take our pig skin, and we're going to line up each end, and I'm going to start with the hemmed edge that goes down. Make sure that I cover that edge where the mark is. The rest of it up top should fall into place. And then I can smooth that out. All the way across. And look how nice and flat that is. And once I get that all stitched on there on all four sides, it's not going to go anywhere. So I'm ready to actually turn that over and do the top hem. Let's go ahead and I'll do the other side the exact same way, and then before I get ready to hem those two, I'll bring you back. Alright, so I've got both ends done with the brown pig hide on there, pig skin, and then I just folded this over. I already had some contact seam on this, but I didn't put it on my canvas, just enough to tack it down while I do my hemming. So I'm going to hem it on the top side instead of the, well, I better do it on the back side so I can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to use my presser foot as a guide again. I'll do 4 or 5 stitches. I'll back stitch it. And then I'll move this up so I don't get any drag on it. folding this over. Remember, it is 17 inches, so I've got a little ways to go here. It's still stitching through 2 thicknesses of pigskin and 1 thickness of the canvas. I'll back it up, put in my lock stitch, and there's my top. And this is black thread and brown, dark brown pigskin. You can't even see that thread. I mean, even if you really look, you can't see it. So I'm pretty impressed. I didn't have to spin up another bobbin or anything with brown thread. I normally keep black in the machine. And what you hear that clicking, that's me burning those ends. Cut these ravels off. And as I hem that, I'll take care of that. Now, what I need to do now is go ahead and stitch this bottom piece on to the canvas. And what I'm going to do, remember I've already got a hem in there. So all I'm going to do is keep that edge even with the edge of the presser foot. So let's go ahead, do 3 or 4, do a back stitch, lock that in. Then I can go forward, and I'm just following along to where I'm running this edge right to the outside of that presser foot. Again, this is going through 2 thicknesses of pigskin and 1 thickness of canvas. And this is just a Brother portable sewing machine. There's nothing special about it. You can buy them at Walmart or Amazon for less than $100. Now, it won't do everything, especially depending on the thickness. But I did have a comment last week on a gentleman that comments a lot, and I appreciate that. IN, you know who you are, about getting a special needle for this, like a chisel tip or a diamond tip. I have to go back and look at the comment, but I'm going to do that because I think that's a great tip and I want to try it. So I've got this let me trim this. This side is done. It's stitched across the bottom here, so that's not going anywhere. That's glued, it's stitched, got a hem in it, it's nice, it's purty. Flip this over, this is stitched and hemmed. So there's one that's finished, real nice. So I'll go ahead and do the exact same thing on the other side, and then I'll be back. Alright, so both of these are stitched. At the top, hem folded over. Bottom, the hem, it's glued. The whole piece is glued and then stitched at the bottom. So now what I need to do is I'm going to turn this inside out and put the pigskin pieces facing each other. And that'll bring me back to the bottom being folded where I had my mark at the beginning. So now what I need to do is I need to stitch down both sides, and now I'm getting into the sketchy part, because now I'm getting into, you could see the machine had no problem doing 2 thicknesses of pigskin and a thickness of the canvas. Now I'm into this 3 inches. I've got 4 thicknesses in some points of pigskin and 2 thicknesses of canvas. And then at the other point, I've got 2 thicknesses of pigskin and 2 thicknesses of canvas. And then down here, I've just got 2 thicknesses of canvas. So it is going to fluctuate. We're going to see what happens here. And I'm going to start by hand. And we'll see how this walking foot or the machine, see if it wants to feed it through there. Alright, so down to the pieces of canvas here. That seems to be stitching just fine on the front and the back. And I'm using my presser foot as a guide here. I'll back it up. Make sure that corner is nice and strong. Double check our stitch on the back. And that looks good. Now what I'm going to do, since this is going to be kind of a carry-all bag and she's going to have quite a bit of weight in it at times, I am going to, let me get all this stuff trimmed off of here. I am going to go back and go right through that again, and I'm going to go right beside that. So I'm going to go to the outside of that stitch, and I want to see if I can kind of double that stitch up. Just run it side by side. I'm not trying to stitch over top of what I've already got on there. And I'll show you what I'm talking about when I get it done. especially if it works. And what that'll do is that'll help me lock that in twice there also. And see, what I did was I ran 2 stitches side by side right through there. So that's going to make that super strong. And like I said, sometimes she carries quite a bit of stuff in there, so I want that to be nice and strong and sturdy, and that looks like that's going to take care of that. So let me burn these corners or these threads real quick. On both ends. Alright, so that side's done. So let's turn it over and let's see what we can do on this side. And I'm going to start it off of that heavy area, and I'm going to back it up very slowly. Double check, make sure it's doing well, and it is. So we'll go ahead and take it to the bottom just like we did the other side, and then I'm going to back stitch and lock that in. And then I can cut those threads off. Double check, make sure they're nice and tight. And everything's okay with them. And these are handy little cutters. And I'll go through and burn these threads on this canvas too once I get done. Make sure it doesn't ravel inside. Turn this over, make sure I get all these threads trimmed off. Make it nice and neat. And then I'll do the same as I did the other side. Now I'll come back and go in between those two stitches I just put in there in the edge, and put in a double line of stitching to make that nice and secure and strong. Back stitch, make it nice and strong on that corner. And then trim these threads. I'll burn them. And then that part be done. I've got a fan going, that's why I'm turning away when I burn these threads so it doesn't blow my light out, my flame. So now, here's what it looks like stitched from the inside. Now I can go ahead and I'm going to burn these on the edge of that canvas so they don't keep fraying out. So now what I need to do is I'm ready to turn this inside out. So when I do that, I like to grab the corner, put my hand up in it like so, and push this down between my fingers and my thumbs. That's the corner, and shove it down inside like that, and I get a nice tight corner to pull out. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Pull that around, inside out, and then I can go down here and finish kind of pushing on those corners from the inside. So I've got a nice rounded bottom, nice seams up the sides. And there we are to this point. Now I'm gonna move the camera and get this machine out of the way and show you what our next step's gonna be. Alright, so my next step is I'm gonna work on the strap, and I get my bag over here. I told you I was not really concerned greatly with these corners because I was gonna do something to strengthen those up. Well, I want to figure out how I want to do this bag, whether I want to do it like that on one side and put the other one on the other side, put them both on the same side, or put them on the inside. It may look better if I put them on the inside. So first thing I'm going to do is I am going to, you see this is hemmed here, and then this is hemmed or sewn where it has the buckle, the D-rings on it. So I'm going to cut all that off. So I just have a good usable strap. And again, I bought a whole box of these at a different colors, of course, at a garage sale for $1. I think there was probably 10 or 15 of these things in there. And I just use them for little projects like this. Make great straps. And then I'll just burn that. Keep that from fraying. Do the same to the other end. And I call them camping lighters. These camping lighters, or whatever you want to call them, charcoal lighters. the long stem lighters. They work great for this kind of stuff. Keep you from burning your fingers. Alright, so now I've got a nice fresh strap that I can use. I do kind of like the idea of having that strap inside there, but I think what I would like to do first is fold this over and stitch that and make this really strong before I put this inside and do something with it as far as attaching it. I think if I attach it with some rivets, it would be pretty strong, but I think if I could sew it on there in 2 or 3 spots, it would make it really strong. Because what my thoughts were was to put a piece of this decorative, cut it out decorative and put it on there, and then put my rivets through that. And I just think it would look really good to have that third color on there, especially with those browns and creams going along with this. I think that's what I'm going to do instead of trying to stitch it. I think I'm going to try to put this, I don't know if I can get the rivet that long, but see if I can try to do something with this, and that will, if I go all the way through the other side, that would make it a lot stronger, would cut down on the size of the opening, but not by a lot, and it would make this so much stronger. So first thing I'm going to do is measure this, and I want to see how much of this I think I'm going to need. Let's go 2 inches. And let's just make a little mark where I'm going to fold that, or where I'm going to stop. And I'll make it where I'm going to fold it vertically. I'm just going to make a little dot there so nobody would even know it was there. And then I want to fold this over and start at that 2-inch mark and stitch this. Just fold it in half and stitch it. So I'm going to pull the machine back up here and see if it can handle that. I think it can. I would assume it can handle that, but let's see. So let's fold it over. And if I need 2 inches in there, I think I'm going to have to go more than 2 inches. I think I'm going to have to go more about the 3 inches of the, yeah, of the brown on the top to make that work, because I'm going to need more material there. So I'm going to put just a little darker mark, a little bigger mark at 3 inches instead of 2 inches. And I think that will give me a lot more material. And then I'll plan accordingly when I put my rivets in there. So I'm going to fold this over and start at about that 3-inch mark. And that does make this fairly thick. Seems to be doing fine now. Key is to keep this thing folded evenly and keep your stitch straight at the same time. If you don't use any type of tape or glue or anything like that, it's not that difficult. You just do a smaller portion at a time. Stop every once in a while, straighten it back up, make sure you're even, and continue on. Looks like I'm about to my 3-inch mark. Lock that in. Alright, so now I've got this stitched over to make a nice handle. And I've got the flat ends that I can stick inside the actual bag and attach not only to the leather but to the canvas as well. So it'll go through the leather and the canvas. So it should be fairly strong. And then this handle should be nice and strong also, especially doubled up like that. So let's get rid of this machine out of the way. I think we're done with it. Alright, so here's my thought process on this. Oh, I forgot to tell you that I got this. It was on a belt that I bought, and what I want to do with it is, let's see how I want to do this. I want to put it on the handle so that she can clip her keys to it. So her keys could either hang down in the bag with the handle when it's closed, or it could just hang outside the bag. So I wanted to reuse it also. So I'm upcycling the clip. So I want to pull this open and make sure everything, okay, you can still see. And then what I want to do is I want to put that down inside there, and it comes down to, almost, if I take it all the way down to the where the stitching starts, it comes all the way down almost to the bottom of the brown pigskin. So then my thought process was to put that like so, and then use this leather on both sides on the outside with my rivets. Now, here's the thing. Do I have enough? Do I have long enough rivets? I guess is my question. So, let's take a look. These are 5/16, and I just got some other rivets the other day. There's my punch for my rivets, and I am just going to do a little test run here and see. Let me cut these. Cut the threads out of this end of this belt. So I can use the thickness of that. So I've got the thickness of my leather here that I'm wanting to put on there. I'm going to put me a hole in that strap. I've got two thicknesses of this leather. Those little 1-inch strips will work perfect for that. So I need a hole through those. And then I've got two thicknesses of the canvas. So I can take a couple of scraps of that, put some holes in that, and that will give me my thickness and an idea if I have any rivets long enough to do this with. So it would be pigskin, or no, I'm wrong. It would be the leather, and it would actually be two pieces of that. One on each side would be preferable. So that might do it in. So, and it's not super thick. It might be a 1/16 of an inch thick. The pigskin's not thick. Let's put the canvas in, put the belt in, the other canvas for the other side of the bag, the other pigskin on the other side, and then you put your other piece of leather on top of that, and a cap fits on there perfect. I think it's going to work. Now just getting all that through there and getting it lined up, that'll be the key. So let's see, let's go ahead and put one on. Oh yeah. And that's nice and strong. And I'm going to put 2 in there, not just 1. So I'm going to put 2 on each side. So that's going to work out great. I don't think I've forgot any thicknesses of anything. So let's go ahead and let's get this my poly board over here so I can get it positioned so I can actually strike some holes in this thing. I want a really good idea of how far down this goes, and I'm taking all the way down to the line of thread that I sewed the pigskin on, the bottom of the pigskin. So that is my line that I'm going to. I need to figure out what I'm going to do as far as the leather goes. Whether I'm just going to do a couple of strips, maybe just round. I don't know what that would look like. We could try that. Let's look and see what that's going to look like. I'll use a piece here that I can't really use because it's got some little imperfections in it. And what I'll do is I'll just cut me a little disc out of that. And cut a round little disc out of the same leather I'm going to use. Let's punch a hole in it. And then I could just put one there and one there on each side. Kind of get an idea what it would look like if I put maybe a cap on there. Oh yeah, that'd look alright. Put one there and one there, one there and one there. Alright, so that's what I'm going to do. So let's go ahead and I'll need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll need 8 of those. So let me go ahead and cut 8 of those discs out. and then I'll be back. All right. So, uh, my camera card got full, and it shut off on me. I didn't realize that. So, I went ahead and finished the rest of the rivets on both sides, and that turned out good, nice and strong. So here's the bag complete. Here's the inside that shows the hems that I put in. Here's the outside hems on the bag. Turned out nice. It's going to be good and sturdy. She's going to like it. It's going to carry a lot of stuff. So it turned out great. Ended up with quite a bit of recycled materials that I was able to use. So just something to use up some of the materials that I have laying around or that I've picked up here and there, and it turned out as a really nice project. So think about what you have laying around and what you can use it for, and let me know in the comments. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. It doesn't cost you a penny, and it helped me out. And as I always say, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.